My name is Silvia Rocha. I work at the City Hall of Nova Friburgo in the state of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And I'm here to talk about the importance of the digital transformation of the legislative process and to exchange some ideas on how to make this happen, especially in the context of the Brazilian municipalities. Some of the benefits of the digital transformation of the legislative process are the increased transparency, since anyone interested can follow the progress of the processes, and this may lead to greater popular participation. The greater efficiency, since all parliamentary committees can simultaneously review each project. The decrease in the probability of errors with standardized workflows and documents. And finally, it's possible to avoid data loss and increase processing speed with digital systems. We have costs, of course. Some of the costs to implement digital transformation are the need of scaling up the IT infrastructure to ensure data security, the preparation of all people in the organization, and the development of strategies to deal with cultural resistance, which should not be underestimated. As a guide to implementing the necessary changes, we can refer to John Cotter's 8 steps to leading change. These steps can be divided in 3 phases. First, to create a climate for change and to get a shared understanding of the difficult assignment which lies ahead of the organization. Second, to engage the employees and to enable them to affect change in the organization. And finally, to implement and to sustain change in the organization. But before we dive deeper into this subject, let's take a quick view over the situation in the legislative in the municipalities of Brazil. It's a very different context of other bigger legislative house. Here in Brazil, we have more than 5,000 municipalities, each one of them with its own city council. Our federal constitution determines the maximum number of councillors depending on the size of the population of the municipality. As we can see in this graph, most councils have up to 15 councillors, and 22 of the municipalities have less than 15,000 inhabitants. According to the website Panorama do Legislativo Municipal, we have 24 employees on average per city council. But of course, this is not the best measure due to the wide variation in the size of these institutions. Therefore, the digital transformation capacity of most of these legislative houses is very small. However, since 2006, the Federal Senate has been helping Brazilian legislative houses to modernize through the Interlegis program. The pilot project, in the pilot project, 100 legislative houses received computers, network facilities, printer and internet access for 1 year. And the virtual community of the legislative was created in Brazil. This happened in 2006 and 2007, when I entered this house where I work now. In the second phase, software products were offered through agreements. There has been a notable evolution of municipal parliaments in the use of technology. In the third phase, started in 2015, more effective citizen participation was sought through the e-democracy tool. In 2020, due to the pandemic, remote activities gained focus. The systems were adapted for remote deliberation by counselors, and the offer of online courses and lectures increased. In 2021, Interlegis launched the Conecta Legis magazine with the aim of promoting innovation in the Brazilian legislative house. So the Interlegis has a great, important it has been helping very much the municipalities. Going back in Carter's steps to lead change, let's look at how this would apply to this scenario we've just seen. In the first phase, to create a climate for change, Carter lists 3 steps: establishing a sense of urgency, forming a coalition, and creating a vision. Creating a sense of urgency, it's important because meaningful organizational change cannot occur without the cooperation of the stakeholders. So the leaders must show that the cost of change is lesser than the cost of maintaining the status quo. In the context of a political house, this can be achieved from a public opinion pool that investigates the institution's image. Then, to create a guiding coalition, the leader needs to know very well the people who work in the organization. And this is especially difficult in an organization that changes leadership every 4 years or even every 2 years. The leader must be aware in this case that it will be necessary to talk frankly with the entire team to find out which people are capable of influencing others and guiding the change process. And there is a fine line between showing that the change will be good for the entire organization or that it will only benefit the image of the leader. As the leader is a politician, he or she needs to be honest in his or her intentions, as the employees will certainly be able to read between the lines. The vision for change is kind of a picture of what the organization is going to look like after the changes are implemented. It works best, as Cotter says, if it's written and can be communicated orally within 60 seconds. It has to be objective. In the second phase of this Cotter guide, we have to engage the employees. In addition to the care in writing the vision, it's essential to have a good communication strategy. At this point, city councils have an advantage as they have few employees and are all gathered in the same building. It's essential that communication reaches everyone effectively. Since the vision is shared all over the organization, it's necessary to remove the barriers by empowering people to act on that vision. A common obstacle is people who are averse to change. To overcome this, the leader must rely on people who have already embraced change to act as multipliers. With a small number of employees, it's common for people to do many things simultaneously. Multipliers can work hand in hand with their peers, helping them to understand and adapt to change. Considering that the leadership of a legislative house can change every 2 years, it's difficult to talk about implementing changes in the long term. On the other hand, since the public service is strictly governed by legal norms, it's possible to create regulations that make the process of change go through several legislatures. According to Cotter, short-term wins give people a chance to experience directly and see evidence that the sacrifices and changes are worth it and that success is possible, which is more effective than verbal arguments. Therefore, it's desirable that the regulations created to support the change include indicators of success and the provision of their periodic review. The third phase, it's about sustaining the change. To prevent the organization from going back to the old ways of doing things, it's necessary to have continuing progress with the change effort. Resistance to change never fully dissipates. Even if there is success in the early stages of a transformation, it often fails to win over the administrative supervisor who gets angry when a reorganization encroaches on his turf, or the narrowly focused crew leader who can't understand why you want to spend so much time worrying about public opinion, or the chief accounting officer who thinks it's ridiculous to empower employees. For this reason, successfully consolidating gains and implementing more change is a powerful strategy to counter irrational and political resistance. Cotter talks about eliminating unnecessary interdependencies, and this is very common in public institutions. As I have already said, government or administrative processes are strictly regulated. The same process may go through 5 or more committees or departments to complete. In addition, it needs to be reported to external control institutions. Some processes could be improved by reviewing the regulation that determines these processing flows. This can be thought of as a side effect of the change. However, it's actually the fuel that will make the change process continually in motion. My intention here was to show that the digital transformation of the legislative process does not depend only on the technology involved. In fact, it depends much more on the people involved. and how leadership is exercised in the organization. If we take into account the technological evolution of Brazilian legislative houses, in many cases due to the work of interleges, it's possible to perceive that there is a favorable environment for its digital transformation. In my opinion, the decisive step to be taken for this transformation to occur is the investment in people. It's essential to work for the improvement of local political leadership. The technical staff of the municipal councils have sought to train themselves through legislative schools and other education institutions in public administration. However, as much as these people are qualified, little can be done without the leaders being prepared. Feel free to communicate with me on my LinkedIn, and that's all. Let me stop the share here.